Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Chapter 8. We're going to start off here with Chapter 8, Section 2, which talks about the idea of translating graphs. What we've talked about uh, at the end of Chapter 7 was the idea of the absolute value graph and then graphing of squares or parabolas. We have some rules here for how we can determine where we move our graph. And so what we've got here is basically 5 different scenarios that can help us. And if we know, we can then figure out how our graph's going to be moved and then effectively help us easily graph all of these things. And this, I give examples for the absolute value, but the same rules apply for x squared, and we'll talk about those in examples here coming forth. So this first example, we're going to graph the absolute value translations. We're going to start off here in black with just the normal absolute value function, which for us, we know starts at the point 0, 0, and then it goes up 1 and over 1 each time. So we start at 0, 0, it goes up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1, and so forth like that, and then it goes back 1, up 1, and it creates our V type object or V-type shape for the graph here. Okay, so now if we look at the next graph that they're asking us to graph, that is the absolute value of x minus 3. So now when the absolute value, or when the subtraction sign is inside our absolute value, we think of it kind of backwards. Normally when we see a negative, we think moving to the left on the number line, but in this case, we actually move our point right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this first point here, we're going to slide it 3 spots to the right, so this first point becomes at 3, 0 instead of 0, 0. And then everything else stays the same. We still have our normal V shape here. All of the places just slid to the right 3 spots. So now we've got our graph there. Okay. The next example says we have the absolute value of x, and then there's a plus 4 at the end on the outside. So what that means is that this original point here now is going to move up because it's positive. Now we think normal. It's going to move up 4 spots to 4. So now our first point is at 0, comma 4, and then we work up this way. Okay. And then the final example that we've got here combines 2 different translations at the same time. Okay, so we're going to start at 0, 0, and now we see that there's a plus 2 inside our parentheses. That means we're going to move 2 spots this way, and then it's a minus 1. That means we move 1 spot down to the bottom. Our first point is down here at negative 2, comma negative 1, and then everything else remains the same. It goes up in its V fashion here. Okay, so the good thing that we've got here is that when we deal with the absolute value, it still follows that same pattern. It's just now we can figure out where we put our this base point here, which is called our vertex, and where we can put that, and that's based off of the numbers that are given in our equations here. Okay. So now the same principles apply when we graph parabolas. Okay, now parabolas start with, we have x squared, we start at 0, 0 again. We're 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is way up here at 9. And we have the same pattern going on the back side, and we end up with our nice little loop here that we've been talking about before. Okay, so now the same rules apply that we talked about with absolute values. The same rules apply here. Now when we have x minus 3 on the inside of our parentheses, that means we take our vertex, or the starting point, and we move it 3 spots to the right, just like we did with the absolute value. And then our points and how they are configured are the same way. We just move each one of these 3 spots to the right. And our parabola continues there. Here we've got x squared minus 2. So now we're taking our parabola, we're taking this vertex point and all the other points with it, and we're moving it down 2 spots. So now we start at -2, and then we continue from there. And if you see here, you can clearly see that the points go down 2 spots each time, like so. All right, and then the last one's got 2 of them put together. So it's a +2, so we're going to start here. We're going to move it 2 spots to the left, and then it says down 4, so we're going down 4 spots. We're going down to here, and then the pattern continues again, and it's always the same pattern as of right now. We'll talk more the farther we get along in this chapter about how sometimes those can change as well, as far as the pattern goes, but we will be able to figure that out as well. All right, so that is the idea of graphing translations with parabolas and absolute values. So if you have any other questions, make sure you let me know, and have a good day.